Up next, Dinesh D'Souza contends that President Obama's economic and foreign policy plans will weaken the United States and curtail the country's superpower status. He presents his book at the National Conference on Christian Apologetics held at Northside Baptist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. This program is 50 minutes.
Thank you all very much. I didn't realize I was going to have this invisible podium. I'm really relieved I remembered to wear pants. I'm thrilled to be here for the fourth year in a row speaking at the National Apologetics Conference. Alex mentioned that I have a new job. I'm the president of the King's College in New York City. It's a Christian college with a quite unique mission. Most Christian colleges, in some sense, are a shelter from society. They protect Christian students from what is seen, often rightly, as the toxic influence of mainstream institutions. One of the dangers, however, is that when you insulate young people from mainstream institutions, you cut them off from those institutions. The reason that the King's College is in New York City is we don't protect you, but we do prepare you. So our goal is to take bright young students, mostly Christian, and equip them to defend their faith in secular society, and also to go on to successful and transforming careers at Goldman Sachs and Capitol Hill, at CBS News. In other words, we want to prepare Christians to flourish in secular society. So if you want to know more about the King's College, our website is www.tkc.thekingscollege.edu. In my career, I have, you might say, put one foot in two different worlds. On the one hand, I have one foot in the world of the debates about God and religion. Just last night, I had a debate in which I was at the University of Wisconsin in Madison on is Christianity good for the world? But I also have one foot in the debates about culture and politics. And I think as Christians we are called to be not only not of the world, but in the world, understanding the world so that we can be a positive influence in it. I want to talk today about leadership, and I want to talk about the ideas and the vision of the man who is leading not only America, but in some senses the world, the President of the United States. President Obama is in some ways a mystery man. He was perhaps the most unknown guy to come into the White House of any president. A set of very unusual circumstances, including, of course, an economic nosedive, put him in there. And 2 years later, a lot of people, not only Obama's critics, but even some of his supporters, are asking the question, who is Barack Obama? Richard Cohen, columnist for the Washington Post, and in general a supporter of Obama, had a column in the Washington Post a few weeks ago titled, Who is Barack Obama? And what Richard Cohen and others are getting at is that it's very clear that Obama has a set of policies. We know about those. But what is missing is a description of what is underneath that, what is behind that, what is the ideology, if there is one, that is driving those policies. What motivates Obama? Now, interestingly, in the last couple of years, we have had a whole bunch of theories about what motivates Obama. These theories are a response to the fact that Obama does things. People don't know why he does them, and so they say he must be this or he must be that. And yet, in my view, when you look at these theories, they really don't fully hold up. They don't make that much sense. So both on the left and on the right, you have these ideas, explanations for Obama. On the right, for example, it's commonly said, Obama is not an American citizen. He wasn't born in this country. Or you'll hear, Obama is a Muslim. He's a closet follower of Islam. That explains why he came out in favor of the Ground Zero Mosque. Or Obama is a progressive. He's kind of a left liberal. He must have picked up some half-baked liberal ideologies in college. Or Obama is a socialist. Not a Marxist, perhaps, but some kind of a European-style socialist, and that is why he is expanding the size of the government. I think when you begin to examine these theories, you find that they don't quite fit the data. They're like hammers. You have to take the data and sort of work it to make the theory stand up. Take, for example, the idea that Obama wasn't born in America. Oddly enough, by the way, when I wrote a cover story in Forbes as a sort of little preview of my book, which is called The Roots of Obama's Rage, and when the Forbes article came out, the White House, this is the very odd Robert Gibbs, the White House press secretary, he began to attack the book and say that Dinesh is raising the issue of whether Obama was born in Kenya. And this is a flat-out distortion of my argument. Not only is my book not about where Obama was born, but in the book I say very clearly that as far as I know, Obama was born in Hawaii. How do we know this? Well, because in August of 1961, this is when Obama was born, there was a notice in 2 local Hawaiian papers, including the Honolulu Sunday Advertiser, young Barack Obama born August 1961. In other words, unless there was an amazing conspiracy dating back 50 years, I feel reasonably satisfied in believing that the guy was born in Hawaii. Is Obama a Muslim? No. Many people think he is. He does stuff that seems strange. So, for example, why would a president endorse the Ground Zero Mosque? It's not as if Obama's advisors, David Axelrod, are coming to Obama and saying, hey, President Obama, your poll ratings have slipped. Come out for the Ground Zero Mosque. It's not as if that's a politically brilliant thing to do, yet Obama does that. I report in my book that Obama endorsed, somewhat secretly, the release of the so-called Lockerbie bomber. This is a guy named Abdel Basset al-Megrahi. He's an Islamic terrorist who brought down a Pan Am jet over Lockerbie, Scotland. Several hundred people were killed, the vast majority of them American. He was tried, he was convicted, and yet a year ago, the Scottish government, he was being held in Scotland, proposed to release him and send him home to Libya. The Obama administration loudly protested, and rightly so, what American president would be in favor of releasing a terrorist who was directly responsible for the murder of hundreds of Americans. And yet the London Times reported that it had obtained a letter that the Obama administration sent to Scotland just a week before the release, saying to Scotland, well, we don't think you should release him, but if you want to, we will not object as long as you keep him in Scotland and don't send him back to Libya. In other words, it was the Scottish officials were quoted in the London Times saying, when we got the letter, we interpreted it as the American government essentially saying, wink, wink, we think it's okay to let this guy go. And they did let him go. And today, Abdel Basset al-Megrahi is a free man in Libya. Now, why would an American president do this? It seems impossible to explain, and therefore people say, well, he must be a Muslim. In fact, Obama's father, Barack Obama Sr., was born and raised as a Muslim. His grandfather, Onyango Obama, had converted to Islam. Obama's stepfather, Lolo Soetoro, an Indonesian, was also raised as a Muslim. But interestingly, both those men became atheists. Both those men rejected Islam. Obama says of his own father, Barack Sr., he began to view the Muslim clerics sort of the way that he viewed the African witch doctors. He did not take it seriously. He thought it was a joke, and he did not practice Islam in any way. And when you look at Obama's own life, it's very clear that he has no affinity or practice for Islam. He is a Christian, but a Christian of a certain kind, and I'll come back to that in a moment. He's not a Muslim. Is Obama a socialist? Actually, no. The socialist theory seems much a better fit for Obama, because after all, he has dramatically expanded the scope of government. The federal government is now intervening in a whole bunch of areas in the private sector that it virtually never went into before. So, for example, it's intervening in the areas of banking and financial regulation and mortgage lending and insurance. Obama even got up one day and decided to fire the head of General Motors. Now, the guy deserved to be fired, but it's still unusual for the President of the United States to be booting out the chairman of a private company. So what's happened is we've seen a dramatic expansion of federal power at home, and at the same time, President Obama has been contracting or reducing the scope of American power abroad or in the world. So if you summarized the Obama administration's policies, it would be strengthening federal power at home and limiting America's role in the world. Now, the socialist theory, even if it were right, could only explain Obama's domestic policy. There's no way it could explain Obama's foreign policy. And it does raise the question of, is there an underlying compass or ideology that drives Barack Obama? This is something, by the way, that has puzzled me. I should say, by the way, that in some ways, I have some eerie similarities to Obama. We were both born in the same year, 1961. We both went to an Ivy League institution. In Obama's case, Columbia. In my case, Dartmouth. We got married in the same year, 1992. And there's a deeper similarity in this sense. I was born in India. I came to America. I arrived on the American mainland as an exchange student at the age of 17. So my early life, my formative years, were in a different place. Obama did not arrive on the American mainland till he was 17. Obama spent the first 17 years of his life in Hawaii, 4 years in Indonesia. Subsequently, he went to Pakistan. He made 3 trips to Africa. So he has had a rather different background than many Americans. In fact, when I was reading Obama's book, Dreams from My Father, and he was talking about Indonesia, his life there, he was describing crowded streets, beggars, lepers, rickshaws, cows crossing the road. And as I read this, it suddenly hit me, wow, this is the world that I grew up in. Living on the streets of Bombay, I recognized immediately that Obama was describing the third world. So, what is Obama's dream? What motivates Obama? One way to ask that is to ask, is Obama's dream the American dream? Is it Martin Luther King's dream? Or is it something else? Is it the American dream? No. That seems odd to say, because Obama is an embodiment of the American dream. During the presidential campaign, Obama said, my story is only possible in America. In that sense, he's saying America is unique. And yet, in a press conference when Obama was in Europe, he was asked, do you believe that America is unique? Actually, what he was asked is, do you believe in American exceptionalism? American exceptionalism is the academic word for American uniqueness. America is exceptional. It's not like any other place. The founders certainly believed America was unique. They called America a novus ordo seclorum, which means a new order for the ages. So Obama was asked, do you believe in American exceptionalism? And Obama said, no. I don't believe America is any more exceptional than Greece or Britain or any place else. So in a sense, Obama was rejecting at least this idea of American uniqueness that the founders clearly affirmed. I don't think his dream is the American dream. Is it Martin Luther King's dream? This is a more profound question. Martin Luther King's dream was, I dream of a future in which we will be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Again, I think one of the great things about Obama is that he embodies Martin Luther King's dream. Obama is not fundamentally motivated by race. He's a non-racial president. He doesn't appeal to race. He doesn't talk about it. I think actually that's a major source of his appeal. A lot of people voted for Obama because he wasn't, you might say, Jesse Jackson. Obama, in a sense, has developed a public persona that is not defined in specifically racial terms. I'm attracted to Obama on those grounds. In fact, a couple of years ago, I wrote an article called Obama and the End of Racism, praising Obama, saying he's a nice man, he's got a nice family, and I think he will help to bring this country a little closer to Martin Luther King's idea of a race-blind, a color-blind society. And yet we still have to ask, is Martin Luther King's dream Obama's dream? And the way to answer that question is to ask this: have you ever heard President Obama passionately defend the idea of a colorblind society? You haven't, because he hasn't. Never once has Obama, not even in his famous race speech in Philadelphia, emphasized or allied himself with Martin Luther King's dream. Never has he said, let's move in this direction, and here's why. Obama frequently quotes Martin Luther King. His favorite quote is, he says, as Martin Luther King said, and he uses the phrase, the fierce urgency of now. But all that Obama means by that is that we should all act right now to do what he says. In other words, he's just invoking King to mobilize people to act on his behalf. He's not defending King's dream. So what is Obama's dream? The beauty of this is that we don't have to guess. We don't have to speculate, because Obama tells us himself. Here is Barack Obama's autobiography. I direct your attention to the title, Dreams from My Father. According to Obama, his dream is his father's dream. Incidentally, his book is not titled Dreams of My Father. Obama is not writing about his father's dreams. Dreams from my father means these are my dad's dreams that I, Obama, have taken. Which raises an interesting question. Who was Barack Obama Sr., Obama's dad? What was he like as a man, and what were his ideas? Interestingly, as a man, Barack Obama Sr. was a deeply flawed guy. He was a polygamist. In fact, he was born in Kenya. He married a woman in Kenya named Kezia. He had 2 children by her. When she was pregnant with the second, he left them. He came to America to study in Hawaii. He met Anne, Obama's mom. Didn't tell her that he was married. He married her, so he now had 2 wives. Before young Obama was 2, he left them and went to Harvard, where he took up with a 3rd woman, Ruth Nidesand, took her back to Africa and had children by her, reunited with his first wife, Kezia, had more children by her. Altogether, he had 4 wives and 8 children. He was also unfortunately, a chronic alcoholic and a regular drunk driver who got into a number of disastrous driving accidents. In one case, he killed a man. In another case, he was drunk and driving, and he got into such a bad accident that both his legs had to be cut off and replaced with iron rods. Finally, in 1982, he became drunk in a bar in Nairobi, and he drove into a tree, killing himself. I mention all this because this is a very unusual guy to make your role model. And yet, Obama did. Now, some people have said in talking about my book, The Roots of Obama's Rage, well, how could Obama be influenced by his father? He never knew the guy. And it's true, his father left before he was 2 and only visited one time when Obama was 10. And yet Obama says that for his growing up life, he was obsessed with the man who wasn't there. Homer in the Iliad has a very interesting line about Achilles. Achilles is the hero of the Iliad, and yet for many chapters he's absent. Homer writes, Achilles absent was Achilles still. His point being that even though Achilles is not present, he's still driving the narrative. And so it is with Barack Obama Sr. Even though he isn't there, Obama is preoccupied with him. He says that he wants to shape his life, his values, his ideas in the image of his father. Let me read a quote from Obama to testify to this. Obama says of his memoir, he says, "It is the record of a personal interior journey, a boy's search for his father, and through that search, a workable meaning for his life as a black American." And Obama writes again, "It was into my father's image, the black man, son of Africa, that I packed all the attributes I sought in myself." Incidentally, this is also Obama's grandmother. In a quote from that she said to Newsweek, she says, "I look at him and I see all the same things. He has taken everything from his father. The son is realizing everything the father wanted. The dreams of the father are alive in the son." So here is Obama himself and his grandmother, close to Obama, testifying that Obama is shaped in his father's image. But the question becomes, how? If the guy wasn't there, how are you shaped by that? The answer, it turns out, is Obama's mother, Ann Obama. She was the father's first convert. Obama says he would often tell his mom, "Where's my father? How come he isn't here?" And the mother would say, "Don't criticize your father. He was a hero. He was the great liberator. He was the champion of Africa. Be like him." There's an amazing episode in which Obama's mom is abandoned by the father, Barack Sr., and what does she do? She basically finds another guy who is another third world guy and is also, like Barack Sr., an anti-colonialist. I'll come back to that idea in a moment. She marries an Indonesian guy named Lolo Sotoro. And this guy takes Ann, his wife, and young Obama to Indonesia. And when they get to Indonesia, Ann Obama discovers over the next few years that her new husband is becoming more pro-American, more pro-Western, and more anti-communist. And what does she do? She begins to attack him. She begins to say to Lolo, "You are a traitor. You are a sellout." And she tells Obama, "Don't be like your stepfather. Learn to be like your real father." And she packs up young Obama, at that time 10 years old, and sends him back to Hawaii. Why? So that he won't be influenced by his pro-American, anti-communist stepfather, Lolo, but will in fact be shaped in the image of his biological father, Barack Obama Sr. Where do I learn all this? I learn it from right here. Dreams from my father. It's all told in rather vivid descriptions. So who was Barack Obama Sr.? Barack Obama Sr. was fundamentally, in his ideology, an anti-colonialist. Now, this is a term a little unfamiliar to most Americans, but I do want to tell you it's something I know a lot about. Why? Because I grew up in India. I was raised in the 1960s. India became independent from the British in 1947. India, like Kenya, was a British colony. And so anti-colonialism is the air I breathed growing up in India as a kid. Anti-colonialism is what my father believed, my grandfather, my uncles. In fact, anti-colonialism was the dominant political idea in the third world in the second half of the 20th century. Anti-colonialism fundamentally has nothing to do with race. It's not a race debate. I sometimes tell people the British didn't come to rule India because the Indians were brown. The British came to conquer. Now, it turned out the British were white, the Indians were brown, and so a kind of racial element crept in. But colonialism fundamentally is about conquest and it's about power. And of course, the British ruled Kenya, which is where Obama Sr. grew up. Now, anti-colonialism is the idea that the world is divided into two: the colonizers, or the oppressors, and the colonized. Who are the colonizers? That's the West. It used to be Europe, but now it's America. Who are the colonized? the poor people of the third world, of Asia, of Africa, of the Middle East, of South America. Anti-colonialism is the idea that the rich countries got rich by invading and occupying and looting the poor countries. Anti-colonialism is the idea that even in the rich countries like America, there are powerful concentrations of economic power. The banks, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the oil companies, and these are the greedy, selfish profiteers who are ripping off people in their own country and around the world. Anti-colonialism is the idea that you have to fight this oppression in two ways. First of all, you have to decolonize or bring down within the rich countries these economic elites. You got to pull them down because they are oppressors. And on the international stage, you've got to recognize that the West, and now America, has become a kind of rogue elephant. It is stampeding around the world. It's invading other countries like Iraq, like Afghanistan. It is consuming resources like oil out of proportion to what it has. President Obama frequently says, we have 2% of the world's oil, but we use 25%. So we are, in a way, the greedy exploiters eating up more of our share. So anti-colonialism is the idea that domestically you've got to bring these concentrations of economic power down, and internationally you've got to put a leash, a lasso, on the rogue elephant that is America and pull it back from exploiting the world. Now, the question we have to ask is, did young Obama adopt his father's ideology? Interestingly, Obama did not follow his father as a man. Obama recognized as he got older that his father was a very flawed guy. Nevertheless, Obama made an important distinction, a distinction between his father as a man and his father's vision or his father's dreams. Obama has a great scene in his book. In fact, it's the climax of his book, where he goes to his father's grave. He finds his father's grave and he weeps. And he flings himself on the ground. And he says, he touches the ground and he says, through Africa's red soil, I tried to speak to my father. Now this is a little strange. His father's been dead for 6 years. So he can't get his father. But what he says is, I can't get my father, but I can get something else. I can get my father's dream. I can get my father's values. I can get my father's ideals. And where my father failed, because his father ended up a failure. He was a drunk. He'd sit outside his hut. He would be completely inebriated, and he would rage and rant and foam at the mouth and say, America, the West has denied me my dreams. So Obama knew all that. And his point is, where my father failed, I can succeed. In some way, I can complete the circle. I can be worthy of my father by achieving what he never did. Here's Obama at the grave. He's weeping. He says, I sat between the two graves and wept. When my tears were finally spent, I felt a calmness wash over me. I saw that my life in America, the black life, the white life, the sense of abandonment I felt as a boy, the frustration and hope I witnessed in Chicago, all of it was connected with this small plot of earth, an ocean away. The pain I felt was my father's pain. His struggle, my birthright. So here's Obama, in a sense, taking on his father's mission. Barack Obama Sr. was an economist. In 1965, he published an article in the East Africa Journal called Problems Facing Our Socialism. The article, by the way, is widely available. You can Google it on the web. It'll come right up. And the article is about what does a country do when you have powerful concentrations of economic power that dominate the wealth of a society. And Obama Sr. says the answer is really simple. You have to bring the economic elites down. Let me quote from his article. Incidentally, it's rather interesting that this article, which as you'll see is quite relevant to what Obama is doing in the White House, has never been reported in any major newspaper. You've never heard about it on the evening news. It is rather odd that something that seems quite relevant to the policies that are having such an impact on us has been, in a way, kept from us. And as I say, it's a public document. So here's Obama. He's talking about concentrations of power. He goes, the question is, how are we going to remove the disparities in our country, such as the concentration of economic power? And then he says this. He says, we need to eliminate power structures that have been built through excessive accumulation so that not only a few individuals shall control a vast magnitude of resources, as is the case now. So Obama says what we do is, number one, we seize land. That we use state power to confiscate people's land. And second, we raise their taxes. We identify the rich and we raise their taxes. How high? To no upper limit. In fact, as high as 100%. Here's Obama. He says, theoretically, there is nothing that can stop the government from taxing 100% of income, so long as the people get benefits from the government commensurate with their income, which is taxed. In other words, as long as the state and the people get the benefits, it's okay to identify the rich people and take everything that they've got. Now, at the first glance, you might think this is absurd. Why would an intelligent man and a trained economist propose 100% taxation? But if you put in the anti-colonial assumption, it becomes very clear. Because the anti-colonial assumption is that the rich guy got rich by ripping off the poor guy. So if you got rich by coming to my house and taking all my furniture, what's the appropriate tax rate for you? 100%, because it's not your furniture. So in a way here, this framework, this anti-colonial framework, helps us a little bit, I think, to understand our debates now. You'll often have President Obama say, the rich are not paying their fair share. Their fair share. But he never says what that fair share is. In fact, if you look at government data, I cite some of it in this book, the rich currently, the top 10% of people in America now, pay about 70% of all the income taxes. 70%. How much does Obama think they should pay? 80, 90, 100? Should nobody else pay any taxes? So Obama leaves the question open, but if you look at his father's paper, a paper, incidentally, that Obama, who knows it very well, Obama knows everything about his dad, but he has never mentioned or referred to it in any speech, any writing. So nevertheless, the ideas of the father are, I think, illuminating in helping to consider what Obama might mean in talking about the fair share. The question we have to ask in thinking about all this is, when we think about anti-colonialism, does it help to explain what President Obama is actually doing in the White House? I want to suggest that it has tremendous explanatory power, both for domestic policy and for foreign policy. And let me give a couple of examples of what I mean. In domestic policy, President Obama has, until just a few days ago, been blocking oil drilling in America. He's had a moratorium on oil drilling. And this sounds very much like Obama's a conventional liberal, kind of like Al Gore. He thinks the planet is getting too warm, global warming. So let's stop oil drilling, let's reduce our carbon imprint, let's learn to live with less. But then I realized that Obama supports oil drilling in Mexico, and Obama, through his Export-Import Bank, has approved $2 billion of loans and loan guarantees for America to subsidize oil drilling in Brazil by the state-owned company called Petrobras. And at first I thought, brilliant move by Obama. This is so Brazil can do the drilling, take the environmental risk, we'll get the oil. But no, the oil is for Brazil. And Brazil has already decided to sell some of it to the Chinese. So the question becomes right away that it's not that Obama's against oil drilling, he's against oil drilling for us. But he supports oil drilling for them. Who's them? The formerly colonized countries. Apparently what Obama is doing, very different than Al Gore. Al Gore wants everybody to stop drilling. He wants everybody to use less carbon. But what Obama is doing is he's in some senses trying to enrich the previously colonized countries so they have greater access to fuel and energy and resources, while taxing or blocking the colonizers. He's transferring wealth, in a way, from the West, from America, to the Third World. So this is redistribution, but it's different than most Democrats. Most Democrats want to redistribute money in America, take from the rich and give to the poor. Obama is promoting not just redistribution in America, but global realignment, global redistribution. So that's a different approach, and that is an approach very consistent with the anti-colonial idea. Look at foreign policy. What is Obama doing on the foreign stage? Well, first of all, one of the things he's doing is he's going to other countries like Venezuela and other third world countries, and to the UN and to Europe, and he's basically sending them a message: help me put the leash on the American rogue elephant. In other words, help me prevent America from acting unilaterally to boss and bully the world. It's kind of an amazing thing. The American president is going to other countries to help him keep America under control. That's, again, part of the anti-colonial framework, that it's America that's seen as the rogue elephant. Now, you remember a few months ago, General Stanley McChrystal, Obama's top general in Afghanistan, was fired by Obama for some indiscreet remarks he made to the magazine Rolling Stone. I think he should have been fired. The remarks were insubordinate, and you shouldn't make those kinds of things if you're working for somebody. But nevertheless, General McChrystal's comments were very interesting. What did he say? Basically, what he did was he said that he went to Obama, he and his aides, and he presented them with a counterinsurgency plan to win in Afghanistan. He said, the situation is tough, but here's how we can win. And McChrystal and his staff said Obama was uninterested. He didn't even want to hear it. He was bored. He was, in their words, disengaged. He didn't care. And you might say, well, that's odd. Why would a president... Now, let's remember, Obama was against the Iraq War, but he was for the Afghan war in the campaign. That was the good war. That's where terrorism really was, according to him. So you'd think he'd be very eager to win in Afghanistan. And yet, here's this top general with a plan to win, and Obama's like, who cares? Now, I would suggest that one reason Obama may be indifferent to winning is he doesn't want to win. What if Obama feels, in the anti-colonial framework, that Iraq and Afghanistan are wars of colonial occupation? America is occupying those countries in the same way that the British occupied Kenya and India. So this is not about fighting terrorism. This is about America, the rogue elephant, grabbing what it can. Then his goal is not to win, but to figure out a way to get out. Just a few days ago, if you open the New York Times, you would see the lead article, Karzai, the Prime Minister of Afghanistan, entering into negotiations with the Taliban. The Taliban. And I thought, when I first read that, oh, this is, these Afghans, you just can't trust them. Leave them alone for 1 minute and they begin to negotiate with the enemy. These are the radical Muslims, the Taliban, trying to make a comeback in Afghanistan. We've been fighting a war against them for years. This horrible Karzai is now betraying America by negotiating with the Taliban. Fast forward 1 or 2 days to the New York Times, look at the front page headline. The Obama administration supports and has in fact been helping to orchestrate the meetings between Karzai and the Taliban. The United States government is encouraging the Karzai government to meet with the enemy. Again, plug in the anti-colonial theory, which is Obama wants to get out. He really doesn't care too much what happens over there. Taliban rule, Karzai rule, some kind of mix of the two. Not my business. I just want to get our guys out. It all makes sense. So the beauty of the anti-colonial view is that you plug it in, it makes sense of all the facts. You take it out, and you can't explain it. Why would someone do that? Consider the case of the Lockerbie bomber I mentioned earlier. I don't understand why any American president would do that. But when I put in the anti-colonial assumption, it makes sense. If you look at America as the bully, as the power that is taking advantage of the world, that is occupying and invading Muslim countries, then who does that make the Muslims fighting against us? Anti-colonial freedom fighters. They're fighting against American aggression. And so if you look at it that way, now I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that Obama approves of the killing of Americans, don't get me wrong. But I am saying when he looks at a guy like Abdel Basset al-Megrahi, who portrays himself as an anti-colonial freedom fighter, Obama might say, hey, at least I can admire that guy. He's a lot like my dad, fighting to push the British out of Kenya. And this would explain why Obama might have a measure of sympathy for Megrahi. Let me say a word. I have so much more to tell you, but I do want you to read The Roots of Obama's Rage. It does go into this, and as you can see, it's a fresh story. 2 years into the Obama administration, we haven't heard this. And yet it seems so vitally relevant in explaining what the president is doing and will do. No matter what happens in November, Obama remains the commander-in-chief. Let me say a final word about colonialism, and then I want to come to, in a sense, how we should think about all this as citizens, as Christians. I'm an anti-colonialist. I don't believe that countries should rule other countries. I'm very glad that the British are out of India. On the other hand, the Indian Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, recently went to speak at Oxford, and he said India is doing really well today. India has the prospect of becoming a superpower. It's growing at the rate of 10%. And he said, why is India succeeding now? He said, well, one advantage that we have in the global economy is that we Indians speak English. And a second is that we have universities, and we have technology, and we have democracy, and we have property rights, and we have contracts and courts to enforce them. And then he said, well, how did we get these things? Oh, we got them from the British. In other words, colonialism, although the British didn't come bearing gifts, they came to rule. But nevertheless, as a consequence of colonialism, the Indians got aspects of Western civilization. By the way, aspects of Western civilization built from Christianity. And these have helped India to rise above its circumstances, to, as Gandhi said, wipe a tear off every Indian face. So my argument with Obama is not that he's anti-colonialist, but in some way, I fear he is frozen in the time machine of his father's anti-colonialism. His father was an African socialist, frozen in the anti-colonialism of the 1950s. My fear is that in some sense, America today is being governed by the dreams of a Luo tribesman from the 50s who was, in a sense, locked into a view of the world that is completely irrelevant today. Countries are coming up all over the world today, and they're coming up by exploiting what one economist, Veblen, called the advantage of backwardness. The advantage of backwardness. What does that mean? Well, what it means is that if you're a poor country, your labor costs are low. And if you can use that to make stuff that other people want to buy, you can come up rapidly. That's how China's coming up, and India, and Brazil, and even Indonesia. Where Obama lived for 4 years. You know, when Obama was elected, the Indonesians erected a statue in a park in Jakarta to celebrate triumphantly their man, Obama, now President of the United States. A few months ago, that statue was taken down. It was taken down in response to 50,000 signatures by Indonesians basically saying, we've now figured out that Obama doesn't care about Indonesia, and in fact doesn't care about Asia. Why? Because Asia is using the way of entrepreneurial capitalism to come up, and that is not Obama's father's way, and it is not Obama's way. Now, as Christians and as citizens, I think that we always have to look at our leaders and try to understand them. The great advantage of having an explanatory model. I mean, I'm not trying to bash Obama. I'm trying to understand him, to get him. The beauty of having, when you know a man's compass, you can not only explain what he's doing, but you can help to predict what he's going to do in the future. And I think as citizens, we need to be aware of how our leaders think and active in our culture. For too long, I think as Christians, we've allowed ourselves to create a subculture and live in that, and allow, you may say, mainstream society to go where it will. I'm the president of the King's College in New York, and our mission is, in some senses, to engage this public debate. One of the things I want to do at King's is I want to find the best Christian thinkers in America, the best Christian, I don't just mean the best Christian theologians, I don't even mean the best Christian apologists. I mean the best Christian historians and philosophers and economists, and bring them to King's, to create in New York City, you might say, an intellectual hub. When I look out at the world, I see that the other side, I debate the atheists. The atheists have an A team. Who's their A team? The physicist Stephen Hawking, the Oxford biologist Richard Dawkins, the philosopher Daniel Dennett, the Princeton bioethicist Peter Singer, the Harvard cognitive psychologist Steven Pinker. The list goes on. The physicist Larry Krauss. They've got an amazingly impressive A-team. Where's our A-team? There isn't one. We've got some smart guys, but they're scattered. One guy's writing in the Journal of Metaphysics over here, another guy's at a seminary over there, another guy's, there's no team. So it seems to me vital that we create a Christian A-team of thinkers, of scholars, who are going to engage in an effective way the public debate. And I don't just mean the religious debate. I mean the religious debate. Even in the political debate, Christianity has valuable resources to bring. For example, capitalism is being debated today not in economic terms, but in moral terms. What is under attack is not whether capitalism works. It's whether capitalism is immoral, whether the entrepreneur is a greedy, selfish guy. So Christianity has ethical wisdom to bring to examine that debate. I'm not trying to take a side in the debate. I'm simply saying we have resources that secular culture doesn't have. So this is a call ultimately for us to understand our leaders and be more active in the world and marshal our best team. I would like to bring young Christians to King's to study, to equip them. And once again, the old our King's College is 10 years old. When we created the college in New York City, we took the charter. We allied with the King's College that was in upstate New York. And the old King's College was about encouraging young people to become missionaries. And it sent missionaries to Nigeria and to India. I think there is now a new mission field. America. Manhattan. And the secular capitals of America are New York, Washington, D.C., L.A., and San Francisco. And that's the publishing capital of America, and the finance capital, and the political capital, and the entertainment capital. And we're not there. And we need to be there. And I think if we work together, we can get there. Thank you very much.
For more information, visit DineshD'Souza.com.